Hello, my name is Steven. I appreciate you for watching this video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about some anxiety things and how I've learned to overcome anxiety for the most part. Now, even though my journey with anxiety isn't completely over, I've eradicated most of it. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of my story, how it started, what I've learned, what I've been through, how I've addressed it, and how I've helped to minimize it. And this is also going to hopefully include tips of how you can try to get through your anxiety as well. Even though I understand that it's a really hard condition to get through, I've totally been there. I've had really bad symptoms before. My anxiety issues were a long time coming. It mainly stemmed from trying to be a people pleaser as well as working really hard for a really long time and putting my physical and mental health under or in a priority that was under me prioritizing my mental health. Mental health can't really be understated. So I would often work as much as I possibly could, work all overtime that I possibly could. I would grind myself into the ground. And while I love working hard and earning money in overtime, and I hate taking breaks or relaxing, I always felt like I could always push a little bit harder. I would say once 2020 hit and we had the pandemic, being in a work from home environment, especially after I had recently moved across the country with no family and only very few friends that I knew in the current city that I'm at, which is Phoenix, Arizona, isolation really got to me, and I realized that isolation is a huge trigger. Well, isolation mixed with me pushing really hard towards my goals of trying to earn a promotion at work. I was trying to become a supervisor. I was trying to get overtime. I was trying to make a certain amount of money per year. The isolation plus me pushing really hard for really long and overexerting myself and getting burned out and pushing through the burnout really led to major problems. And about a year later, once the issues started happening, they really started to escalate. I didn't learn my lesson. I just started feeling the effects in 2020 when the pandemic hit, which everybody had their issues with that. But a year later, I was trying to complete the goal of buying my first home, and I had saved really aggressively. I micromanaged myself, the hours that I put in, the money that I'm spending, the money that I'm saving, writing down mini goals, trying to get towards that big goal. And that wasn't my only goal in life. I had a lot more goals as well, but that was the main one. But when I was actually in the process of buying the home, things got even more stressful. Work was stressful, but the home buying process is very stressful. You have to get all of this money together. You have to put in offers, and at this time the housing market was super hot, and you have to hope that your offer gets accepted. You then have to work on getting an appraisal, seeing what it's gonna appraise at. You have to get it inspected, hoping that you find nothing wrong with it. You have to figure out when you can move. You have to deal with your complex or whoever you're renting from, trying to coordinate dates and maybe get out of a lease early. There's so many things that go into it. So I was trying to figure all that out, and that was my first experience buying a home. While my job was very stressful, and I was trying to get a promotion, so I kept pushing myself to be better and do better and to not really care how I feel, even though I knew that I was running myself into the ground. Well, I ended up getting home, and after I got my home, that felt good for a minute. But what happened then was there was a special project at work where I was able to take on a ton of extra hours and do extra work and get a ton of extra money. And I was like, oh, sweet, I just dropped $20K on a down payment. I want to recoup as much of this money back as I can just to have it back, just because I have the opportunity to do so, even though I don't need the money at the time. If you just drop $20K, obviously you rather get it back sooner than later. So I took that on. And what that amounted to was 21 straight days of, I believe, 10 plus hour days or 11 or 12 hour days and increased workload. And I did that. And ultimately I started feeling a lot of pressure, like pressure in my chest and sometimes numbness in my hands and shortness of breath from all the stress of that, as well as the stress of me pushing myself the last few years, dealing with isolation, not having an outlet, and just not understanding the importance of trying to keep myself balanced and level-headed, because I emphasized grind and achievement so much. Well, the storm was definitely rolling in as far as the anxiety goes, and there was a few moments where I realized that it was getting out of hand. And a friend came and visited me from another state, and she was over for a few days, and I was a little bit agitated the whole time. I wasn't myself, and I felt bad about that. Now, it was during the time when I was working a lot and doing those extra hours, and I realized that I wasn't being myself. And I quickly realized that I was starting to get short of breath a lot more often. And anytime I would be in a crowded room or in a one-on-one situation with somebody, I could start feeling it come on. A little bit short of breath and a little bit of like numbness and feeling like I can't catch my breath. And it was not a pleasant experience at all. And also, I went to Vegas shortly after I bought my home, and it was the middle of summer, and on the way home from Vegas, my AC went out in my car, and it was really hot, and it was probably 110 degrees that day, maybe 115, and I'm in the middle of the desert. There's no buildings around, no stores around, no gas stations, nothing. It's just desert and mountains, and it's really all there is out there at some points. And I was getting really hot, and I started to kind of have a panic attack about the heat, and I started feeling short of breath, and my hands are tingling, and it was something that started happening to me a lot after that. And then anytime I would be outside, and I'm living in Phoenix, anytime I'd be outside and it was hot out, it would trigger me to almost have a panic attack. And there was a few times I was walking my dog, and it wasn't even far, and it wasn't even extremely hot out. These were temperatures that they're hot, but I had been walking around in for a couple of years, and they never bothered me. But at this point in time, after I had gone through that and had the heightened kind of anxiety and fight or flight response, I started barely being able to walk my dog in the heat. So I started realizing like the heat affects me, and that wasn't fun at all. And I ended up having to move back to Illinois, which is where I came from, and it was not a good feeling. I ended up selling my house and moving back to Illinois and realizing like I need to be by family and figure out what I need to do to get myself right. And I moved back to Illinois for a year, and during that year I focused on being around my family, trying to have a little bit less of emphasis on grind, and also started seeing a therapist. And you don't see a therapist, I truly recommend seeing one. Doesn't say anything less about you if you see one. It's actually a really good thing to do, because they help you see things in a certain or a different way. They help you cope with daily life things. It's not just anxiety. They help you become more resilient and think of positive things and ways to reframe things. And I didn't think that I needed help from a therapist to improve my mindset. I thought my mindset was pretty solid, but I realized a lot of things about myself by seeing a therapist. And I learned a lot about myself, and it helped me tremendously. And I spent a year back in Illinois. It was 11 months and about 2 weeks. It was just less than a year. And I had determined while I was there that I was going to come back here to Phoenix, which is where I am right now. And I made it back out here. And seeing a therapist helped me really utilize a different mindset for myself. And when I got back out here, I quickly was met with the realization that I wasn't able to see that therapist anymore. And I didn't necessarily need him towards the end of my year of sessions with him, but it felt good to talk to him, and it felt good to bounce ideas off of him, catch up with him, and it was so worth it. And even though I didn't need him, I really benefited from having him around, and I realized, wow, he can't practice on me here because due to regulations or things that they have that licensing doesn't apply to certain states or doesn't reciprocate, whatever it is. Well, that was disappointing, but I understood and I accepted it. But what I realized is that when I came back out here, I was able to deal with the issues, and I came out here with a plan of how I'm going to rectify those issues and get through them. And it worked. I came out here and I realized what my weaknesses were. Number one, I focused too hard on work last time. This time I still work really hard, but I put a boundary on it. Number two, I didn't have a good support system, and I didn't realize how to utilize my support system and or how to counteract isolation. now I have a great support system because I continue to work on it. I'm a good person. I catch up with people. I help people. They help me. I stay in touch. I see them. I do whatever I need to do to make sure that I'm not spending too many consecutive days at home without seeing somebody, catching up with them. If I can't see them in person, then I will call or FaceTime, whatever it is, but it's really important to have interaction with people. That's 2 things. Number 3 is I came out here understanding how to accept disappointing outcomes. I had to learn how to accept things that I can't change and how to understand that me accepting that I can't change something is not just me being passive, because I don't believe in being a victim. I don't believe in just being okay with things and not trying to do something about it, because I believe in taking action and trying to resolve my situation. However, there's certain times when you have to accept the disappointing outcome and still be kind of trying to change it, but understanding this is what it is. And if I don't accept it, it's just gonna eat away at me and make my whole life worse and make the situation even worse. For example, my dog, not this one, but my dog that I had when I was coming back to Phoenix, which was a year ago, she came down with cancer, and I knew it before we got back to Phoenix, and I knew that my time with her was limited, and there was nothing I could really do to extend the time with her. I looked into chemo and stuff, but it wasn't going to really add much quality to her life, and it wasn't what was best for her, and I opted against it. And I had to realize how to cope with that and deal with that. And I, as a side note, I just appreciated every single day that I had with her and appreciated every moment with her, loved her as much as possible, was really sweet with her, and did as much as I possibly could. And I spent all of that time being as happy as possible with her rather than being sad while she was still here, because my mindset and my approach was, hey, I'm going to be happy with her and enjoy her life together while she's here, and I'll try to just be sad when she's gone. There was moments when I was sad while she was here, and of course I was sad the entire time that I knew that she had cancer, but I tried to spend consciously as much time being happy and smiling and enjoying the moments with her while she was here. So that's a side note, but it's also a way where we choose how we approach situations and the things that we're facing. And we have to consciously choose that. And if we don't, then we're not gonna have a game plan for how to kind of control our mind. And if we don't have control over our mind, it spirals, it spins, it twists, it overthinks, and things like that. So anyways, that's my journey with anxiety that I wanted to share with you guys. And these days, I still have some times where it feels like maybe sometimes a panic attack will hit, or sometimes there's a few symptoms that happen with it. Like sometimes it's hard for me to swallow or hard for me to breathe. It's really weird. It happens every so often. Sometimes you may not be able to completely eradicate it, but I've eliminated most of it. And most of it was from fixing my mindset and giving myself time and space from when the events were happening, coming up with a new approach, and then just generally trying to be healthier physically and mentally. I do want to remind you that physical health plays a huge role in mental health and vice versa. When you're getting exercise, sunlight, hydration, movement, fresh air, all of that stuff really plays into the health of your mind. And when your mind has things to work on, when your mind is thinking about goals, the things that you're grateful for, things that you're happy about, excited about, and things like that, it helps you and your body feel better, and it motivates your body. So it's kind of there's synergy between the mind and the body. Don't forget that. Just a little bit of things that I want to talk to you about. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you are going through anxiety, I truly feel for you. It's a really, really, really tough thing to go through, and I obviously and honestly cannot stand that condition. So I feel for you. I wish you the best in your journey. If you do have any questions or things, if you need somebody to talk to, just reach out. I'm not a therapist. I'm not any type of pro, but I've been there. But anyways, appreciate you for watching, And if you want to see more content that's similar to this, then feel free to subscribe. Let me know what you thought, and have a wonderful day. Hang in there.